I'm Hope Williams, 28 years old, and I still remember the day my entire world shattered like it was yesterday. My boyfriend of 4 years and my own sister betrayed me in the worst possible way, but what cut deeper was my parents taking her side when she claimed to be pregnant. They chose her over me, so I chose myself and walked away. Before I dive into how I discovered their affair and the chaos that followed, tell me where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button while I gather myself. Growing up, I was always the responsible one in the family. While other kids were sneaking out to parties, I was studying for AP exams and planning my future. By 28, I had done everything right. Graduated college with honors, landed a great job at a marketing firm in Minneapolis, and saved enough for a down payment on a small house. My parents, Robert and Susan Williams, had always instilled these values in me. Work hard, be responsible, build stability before taking risks. Our family home in the suburbs of Minneapolis was where I learned these lessons. A two-story colonial with a big backyard where neighborhood kids would gather for my mom's famous summer barbecues. Family was everything to us, at least that's what they always said. Then, there was my younger sister Amanda. 4 years younger than me at 24, she was always the golden child. With her natural blonde hair and effortless charm, she floated through high school as homecoming queen and captain of the cheerleading squad. While I was practical, Amanda was passionate. While I saved, she spent. When I went to state college on scholarship, she bounced between 3 prestigious universities before dropping out in her junior year. Yet somehow my parents always found a way to celebrate her free spirit, while merely acknowledging my achievements as expected. "That's just how Amanda is," my mother would say with a fond smile when my sister showed up 3 hours late to Christmas dinner. "She marches to her own drummer." James entered my life during my junior year of college. He was 29 now, tall with dark hair and thoughtful brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. We met in an economics class, both of us serious students who appreciated stability and planning. Our relationship progressed naturally and carefully. We dated for a year before moving in together. We discussed marriage but agreed to wait until we were financially secure. James was an accountant practical like me, and our life together felt like a perfectly constructed blueprint for happiness. My family embraced James immediately. My father took him fishing at our lake house and taught him how to smoke the perfect brisket. My mother included him in her emergency contact list. He became one of the Williamses, as my dad proudly declared during Thanksgiving dinner our second year together. James fit perfectly into our family puzzle, or so I thought. The first signs of trouble began when Amanda moved back home after dropping out of college for the final time and losing her job at a boutique downtown. She had been living in Chicago trying to find herself before returning to Minneapolis with nothing but 2 suitcases and another failed relationship story. "It's just temporary," she assured everyone over dinner her first night back. "I've got some opportunities lined up." 3 months later, she was still sleeping until noon and borrowing my mother's credit card for essential shopping trips. But what bothered me most was how she acted around James whenever we visited my parents, which was often since they only lived 20 minutes away. It started subtly, touching his arm when she laughed, asking for his help, specifically when everyone was available, texting him directly about family plans instead of going through me. "Your perfume is amazing," she said one night, leaning unnecessarily close to him on the couch. "Is that the one Hope bought you for Christmas?" "Actually, I picked it myself," he replied with an awkward smile. "You have such good taste," she said, her hand lingering on his shoulder. When I mentioned these moments to James in the car ride home, he shrugged them off. "She's just being friendly, Hope. She's your sister. Don't be paranoid." But something felt off, especially after the Memorial Day barbecue at my parents' house. I noticed strange tension in the air, charged glances between Amanda and James when they thought no one was looking. During dinner, Amanda kept steering the conversation toward inside jokes she somehow shared with my boyfriend. "Remember that podcast I told you about?" she asked James directly, completely ignoring me sitting between them. "Oh yeah, I started listening to it," he responded, not meeting my eyes. "What podcast?" I asked. "Just something about true crime," Amanda answered dismissively. "James and I realized we both loved the same documentaries when we bumped into each other at Starbucks last week." "You went to Starbucks together?" I asked, looking at James. We just ran into each other, he said quickly. I was getting coffee before work. No big deal. That night, as we drove home in silence, an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. Something wasn't right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what. I wanted to trust James to trust my sister, but the gnawing sensation in my gut wouldn't subside. Is everything okay with you and Amanda? I finally asked as we pulled into our apartment complex. James gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles turning white. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? His answer came too quickly, too forcefully. That was the moment my subconscious registered what my heart wasn't ready to accept. Something was happening between my boyfriend and my sister, something that would soon shatter my entire world. The first concrete evidence came on a Tuesday evening. James was in the shower, and his phone on the nightstand lit up with a text. I never snooped. We respected each other's privacy. But the preview caught my eye. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same time. It was from Amanda. My hands trembled as I picked up his phone. I told myself there could be an innocent explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. But as I scrolled through their message history, my heart sank. Nothing explicitly romantic or sexual, but dozens of messages exchanged, daily meeting for coffee inside jokes, and a closeness that went far beyond normal boundaries between a man and his girlfriend's sister. Need to talk to you about something important. One message from Amanda read from 3 days earlier. Not over text, James had replied. I'll find a way to meet up. When James emerged from the shower, I placed his phone back exactly where it had been, my mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. Everything okay? He asked, noticing my expression. Fine, I lied, needing time to process. Just tired from work. That night I barely slept, tossing and turning beside the man I thought I knew. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, but deep down I knew whatever was happening between them wasn't innocent. Still, I needed proof before making accusations that could tear apart my relationship and my family. The next day, James mentioned he needed to work late on a special project for a client. Don't wait up for dinner, he said, kissing me on the cheek before leaving. Might not be home until 8 or 9. I nodded, already forming a plan. I would surprise him at work with his favorite sandwich from the deli across from his office. If everything was normal, it would be a nice gesture. If not, well, I needed to know. At 5:30, I drove downtown to his accounting firm, the sandwich and a cookie in a paper bag beside me. When I pulled into the visitor parking area, a cold realization hit me. His assigned spot in the employee lot was empty. Heart pounding, I called the front desk. James Collins. He left around 4 today, the receptionist informed me. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. Where would he go if not to work overtime? The answer came immediately, though I tried to deny it. Driving on autopilot, I headed toward my parents' house in the suburbs, telling myself I was overreacting, that there could be an explanation. 20 minutes later, I turned onto their street and immediately saw James's dark blue Honda parked 2 houses down, as if he'd tried to hide it. Not in the driveway where he usually parked when we visited together. My entire body went numb as I parked across the street. I knew my father worked late on Wednesdays, and my mother had book club until 7. The house should have been empty except for Amanda. Walking up the familiar path to my childhood home felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I still had a key, had never needed to ring the doorbell. Inside the house was quiet at first. Then I heard it. Muffled laughter from upstairs, followed by music turned up louder. Each step up the staircase felt heavier than the last. The music grew louder. Amanda's playlist, songs I'd heard 100 times through our shared wall growing up. Her bedroom door was closed but not completely shut. I don't know what I expected to find, but nothing could have prepared me for the reality. Through the crack in the door, I saw them. James, sitting on the edge of Amanda's bed, my sister standing between his legs, her arms draped over his shoulders. They were kissing deeply, lost in each other, his hands pushing up the fabric of her shirt. We shouldn't, I heard James murmur against her neck. Not here. Mom and Dad won't be home for hours, Amanda whispered back. We've been careful for weeks. One more time won't matter. One more time. Weeks. The words echoed in my brain as I pushed the door open fully, unable to contain the sound that escaped my throat, something between a gasp and a sob. They jumped apart like they'd been electrocuted. James's face drained of color, eyes wide with shock and guilt. Amanda's expression shifted from surprise to something almost like satisfaction before she arranged her features into performative remorse. "Hope," James stammered, standing up, adjusting his rumpled shirt. "This isn't, it's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. "How long?" I managed to ask, my voice unnaturally calm despite the hurricane raging inside me. "Hope, please let me explain," James pleaded, taking a step toward me. I backed away. "How long?" Amanda spoke, then her voice small. 2 months. 2 months. While I was planning our anniversary trip, while I was discussing our future, my boyfriend and my sister had been sneaking around behind my back. I turned and walked out, my body on autopilot, while my mind splintered into 1,000 sharp pieces. I heard James calling my name, rushing after me down the stairs, but I couldn't respond, couldn't look at him. "Hope, wait. Please." He caught up to me in the driveway, grabbing my arm. "It just happened. I didn't mean for this to happen." I yanked my arm away, finally finding my voice. "Nothing just happens for 2 months, James. You made choices. Both of you. Every single day." "I love you," he said desperately. "We can fix this." A laugh escaped me, hollow and broken. "Love you, don't even know what that word means." I got into my car and drove away, his figure growing smaller in my rearview mirror. The drive home passed in a blur, traffic lights and street signs melting together through my tears. Inside our apartment, the space we'd decorated together, built a life in together, everything looked different now, tainted. I collapsed on our bed, the same bed where we'd made love countless times, where we'd whispered dreams to each other in the dark. The pain came in waves, each one threatening to pull me under completely. I screamed into a pillow, my body convulsing with sobs until my throat was raw and my eyes swollen. My phone buzzed repeatedly throughout the night. Text messages from James, "Please talk to me. I made a terrible mistake. I'll do anything to fix this." From Amanda, "I'm so sorry. We need to talk. Please forgive me." I silenced my phone and curled into myself, allowing the darkness to swallow me whole. Everything I thought I knew about love, family, and trust had been shattered in a single moment. There would be no sleep that night, only the endless replay of what I'd seen, and the devastating realization that the two people I trusted most had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Morning arrived with cruel brightness streaming through blinds I hadn't closed in my shattered state. My eyes felt swollen and raw, my body heavy with grief. 27 missed calls and dozens of unread texts lit up my phone screen. I ignored them all except for one, to my mother. "I need to talk to you," I typed with trembling fingers. "About Amanda and James." Her response came quickly. "What's going on? Are you okay?" "No," I replied simply. "Can you call me when you're alone?" Hours passed before my phone rang. I'd called in sick to work, unable to imagine functioning in the real world when my personal one had imploded. "Hope," my mother's voice sounded concerned. "What's happened?" The words caught in my throat. Despite everything, saying it out loud made it real in a new, painful way. "I caught James and Amanda together yesterday," I finally managed. "At the house. They've been having an affair for months." Silence stretched between us. Then, "Oh my God, are you sure?" The question stung. "Yes, Mom, I'm sure. I saw them with my own eyes." "Where are you now? Do you want me to come over?" "I'm at the apartment. I needed you to know. I don't know what to do." Her voice softened. "Oh, sweetheart, this is unbelievable. Let me talk to Amanda, figure out what's going on. We'll get through this somehow." I hung up, feeling marginally better. My mother had always been the family mediator, the voice of reason in conflicts. She would help me navigate this nightmare. But as hours turned into days with no further contact from my parents, anxiety replaced shock. I called twice, sent multiple texts with no response beyond a brief, "We're figuring things out. We'll call soon," from my father. By the third day, I couldn't stand the silence anymore. James had finally stopped calling, having left a final voicemail saying he was staying with a friend and would give me space. Our apartment felt like a mausoleum of a life that no longer existed. I needed answers, closure support, something my family should provide. I drove to my parents' house in the early evening, rehearsing what I would say, how I would handle seeing Amanda. Nothing prepared me for what awaited. James's blue Honda was parked in the driveway. Not hidden down the street this time, but prominently displayed like he belonged there. Like he was welcome. Disbelief kept me frozen in my car for several minutes before I gathered the courage to approach the house. This time I rang the doorbell, suddenly feeling like a stranger at my childhood home. My father answered, his expression grave beneath his salt and pepper hair. "Hope, we weren't expecting you." "Clearly," I said, looking past him into the house. "Is that James's car in the driveway?" He sighed heavily. "Come in. We need to talk." The scene in the living room struck me like a physical blow. My mother sat on the sofa, Amanda beside her with tear-stained cheeks. James occupied my father's recliner, looking uncomfortable but present. They were arranged like some bizarre family meeting, but one where I was the outsider. "What is this?" I asked, remaining standing while everyone else sat. "What's happening?" My mother spoke first, her voice gentle as if addressing a volatile patient. "Hope, honey, we know you're hurting. What Amanda and James did was wrong." "But," my father interjected, "we have a complicated situation here that needs a level head." Amanda looked up, then her blue eyes swimming with tears. "I'm pregnant, Hope." The words hit me like a truck. Pregnant. My sister was carrying my boyfriend's child. The room tilted slightly, and I grabbed the wall for support. "It wasn't planned," James said, speaking for the first time. "But it happened, and now we have to be responsible." Responsible? I repeated the word, tasting bitter. "Like you were being responsible when you cheated on me for months." "Hope," my father said firmly. "What's done is done. We need to think of the baby now." I turned to him incredulously. "Are you serious? They betrayed me, both of them. And you're what? Having a family meeting about it with him sitting in your chair?" My mother stood approaching me with outstretched hands, which I stepped away from. "Sweetheart, we're devastated about how this happened. But Amanda needs James right now. She needs support." "And what about what I need?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What about the fact that my boyfriend and my sister have been lying to me, betraying me? Doesn't that matter to anyone here?" My father cleared his throat. "Of course it matters. But we're trying to be practical. Amanda is pregnant. That changes things." "How does it change what they did to me?" "It doesn't," my mother admitted. "But it changes what has to happen next. Amanda needs James more than you do right now." The words sliced through me with surgical precision. More than I do, as if my pain was being measured against my sister's needs and found wanting. "They're moving forward together," my father continued, "for the baby, and we need to find a way to move past this as a family." "As a family," I repeated, my voice hollow. "You want me to what? Forgive them? Pretend everything is fine at Thanksgiving dinner, watch them raise their child together like they didn't destroy me in the process?" "In time," my mother said. "With counseling, perhaps. Family is everything, Hope. You know that." I looked around the room, at James, who couldn't meet my eyes, at Amanda, whose tears seemed to have miraculous healing powers for everyone but me, at my parents, who had already decided where their loyalties lay. "If family is everything," I said slowly, "then why am I the only one standing alone right now?" Silence fell over the room. My father shifted uncomfortably. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Amanda stared at the floor. "I need you to leave James," I said finally. "All of you need to make a choice. Either you stand with me against what they did, or you stand with them. But you can't have both." My father squared his shoulders. "We're not choosing sides, Hope. We're choosing what's best for the baby." "That sounds like a choice to me," I whispered. "Don't make us choose between our daughters," my mother pleaded. "I'm not," I said, backing toward the door. "You already did." I left that house knowing something fundamental had broken. Not just between me and James or me and Amanda, but in the very foundation of what I thought family meant. They had chosen her comfort over my pain, her needs over my heartbreak, her future over our relationship. That night, alone in my apartment with the shattered pieces of my life, I made a choice too. If they could discard me so easily, I would learn to live without them. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what they had forced upon me with their betrayal. Sometimes survival means cutting away what hurts you, even when what hurts you is the very thing you thought would always keep you safe. The apartment James and I had shared now felt like a museum of broken promises. Every corner held memories that stabbed like glass shards. The kitchen where we cooked Sunday breakfasts, the couch where we curled up for movie nights, the bedroom where we had whispered about our future. I couldn't stay there surrounded by the ghost of a relationship that had been a lie. Within a week, I found a small studio apartment across town, a sterile, characterless space with white walls and generic furniture. Perfect for someone whose identity had been stripped away, who needed to rebuild from nothing. The process of separating our possessions was excruciating. James came while I was at work, taking what we had agreed upon via text messages. I left his boxes in the hallway, unable to face him directly. "Keep the coffee table," he texted, "and the blue throw pillows. They were always more your style anyway." Such trivial concerns. As if the division of furniture could somehow equalize the devastation he had caused. I left most of our shared items behind, wanting nothing that would remind me of him. At work, I functioned on autopilot, smiling when appropriate, contributing to meeting deadlines. My colleagues noticed something was wrong but respected my vague explanations about family issues and needing space. Only my supervisor, Diane, knew the full truth after finding me crying in the supply closet during lunch one day. "Take time if you need it," she had offered kindly. "Work is the only thing keeping me sane right now," I admitted. My new apartment slowly transformed from an empty shell into something resembling a home. No family photos on the walls, no mementos from childhood. Instead, I filled it with new things. Art from local stores, plants that needed my care books I'd always wanted to read but never had time for. My life contracted to essential elements: work, apartment, grocery store, gym. A simplified existence while I healed. The holidays arrived like a series of landmines. Thanksgiving, always at my parents' house, came first. My mother called 3 times that week. "We want you here," she insisted. "You're still part of this family." "Is Amanda coming?" "Of course she lives here, and James will join for dinner." "Then I won't be there." "Hope, please. It's Thanksgiving." I have nothing to be thankful for with people who betrayed me. I spent the day alone eating takeout and watching mindless television, ignoring the photos on social media of friends with their happy, intact families. Christmas followed the same pattern. Invitations extended and declined, followed by gifts sent to my apartment that I returned unopened. "You can't shut us out forever," my father said during one of his rare calls. "Watch me," I replied, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. My birthday in February passed without acknowledgement from my family, perhaps their punishment for my continued estrangement. I told myself it didn't matter. I was 29 now, rebuilding my life day by painful day. Spring brought an unexpected lifeline in the form of a support group for family estrangement that I found online. Meeting in a church basement every Wednesday evening, we were a motley group united by similar wounds. Parents disowning children for their sexuality, siblings stealing inheritances, families fractured by addiction and abuse. My story, while unique in its details, followed the universal pattern of betrayal, boundary violation, and the agonizing choice to walk away from toxic relationships. "Family isn't just blood," said Gloria, a 60-something woman who hadn't spoken to her daughter in 15 years. "It's behavior, it's respect, it's love that doesn't come with conditions." Those words became my mantra in the darkest moments when doubts crept in. Was I overreacting? Should I try harder to forgive? The group reminded me that walking away wasn't weakness or spite, it was self-preservation. Through the support group, I made new friends. Teresa, a graphic designer whose parents had chosen her abusive brother over her safety, became a regular dinner companion. Marcus, estranged from his entire family after leaving their cult, like church, helped me assemble bookshelves for my apartment and introduced me to his wide circle of friends. most of whom had created chosen families of their own. Slowly, painfully, I began reconstructing a life. I took a photography class, remembering how I'd loved it in high school, before practical concerns led me toward marketing. I adopted a cat, a scraggly orange tabby named Leo, who had been overlooked at the shelter for months. We were both starting over. News about Amanda and James came through distant family channels. My mother's cousin Bethany, who called occasionally to check on me. "Amanda's showing now," she reported in her characteristically blunt manner. "They're planning a wedding before the baby comes. Small ceremony at your parents' house." "Good for them," I said, surprised to find I meant it. Not because I wished them well, but because I was reaching the point where their lives felt separate from mine, their choices no longer able to wound me so deeply. "Your mother asks about you," Bethany added. "Says she misses you." "Not enough to respect my boundaries," I noted. "Families are complicated." Bethany sighed. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling this with more grace than most would." Grace wasn't what I felt on my darkest days when anger and grief still overwhelmed me. But those days grew fewer as spring turned to summer, and I found small joys again. The perfect cup of coffee, Leo's rumbling purr against my chest, a promotion at work that recognized my dedication despite personal turmoil. The 1-year anniversary of discovering the affair arrived with less pain than I'd anticipated. I took the day off work, drove to a hiking trail outside the city, and spent hours walking through forests and along ridges, letting nature remind me of my insignificance in the best possible way. My problems, while enormous in my own life, were tiny in the grand scheme of the universe. Somehow that brought comfort. That evening, sitting on my small balcony with a glass of wine, I realized I was building something valuable from the wreckage. Independence, resilience, a life entirely my own. Not what I had planned or wanted, but perhaps what I needed. To new beginnings. I toasted the sunset, Leo winding around my ankles in agreement. My new life wasn't perfect. Loneliness still ambushed me at unexpected moments. I still sometimes dreamed of James waking with the phantom warmth of his arms around me. I still missed my parents on good days when I wanted to share my successes. But with each passing month, the grip of those feelings loosened. I was learning that healing isn't a destination but a direction, a path of tiny steps forward, occasional steps back, but overall movement toward wholeness. In that moment of fragile peace, I couldn't have imagined how my carefully constructed boundaries would soon be tested, or how the family I thought I'd left behind would come crashing back into my life, bringing with them a final betrayal that would force me to stand firmer than ever in my hard-won strength. 18 months after I walked away from my family, I had built a life I was proud of. My promotion to senior marketing strategist came with a corner office and a significant raise. I moved from the studio apartment to a 1-bedroom condo with a view of downtown Minneapolis. My circle of friends expanded through work, my photography club, and my support group. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious, but enough to remind myself I could feel attraction and connection again. The morning my mother showed up at my office began like any other. I was reviewing campaign metrics with my team when my assistant leaned into the conference room. "Hope there's someone here to see you. Says she's your mother." The room seemed to tilt slightly. My team members exchanged glances, aware of my estrangement, but not the details. "We can finish this later," I told them, gathering my composure along with my papers. She waited in the reception area, looking smaller than I remembered, more fragile. Her blonde hair, once identical to Amanda's, now showed more gray. She wore an expensive beige suit I didn't recognize. New life, new clothes. "Hope," she said, rising from the leather sofa. "You look wonderful." "What are you doing here?" I asked, not unkindly but without warmth. "How did you even find me?" "You've been at the same company," she said. "I took a chance. Can we talk somewhere private?" I led her to my office, closing the door on curious glances from colleagues. She took in the space, awards on the walls, the photo of Leo on my desk, a life she knew nothing about. "I should have called first," she began, "but I was afraid you wouldn't agree to see me." "You're right," I confirmed. "I wouldn't have." She nodded, accepting this. "You have every right to your anger. What happened was unforgivable." The acknowledgement coming so late meant less than it might have once. "Why are you here, Mom?" She reached into her handbag, removed an envelope, and placed it on my desk. cream-colored with silver embossing, a wedding invitation. "Amanda and James are getting married in 3 weeks," she said. "The baby is due in 2 months. Your presence would mean a lot to the family." I stared at the envelope without touching it. "You can't be serious." "Hope, I know this is difficult." "Difficult," I interrupted. "You want me to celebrate the relationship that destroyed mine, to stand and smile while my sister marries the man who cheated on me with her. Have you lost your mind?" She flinched but pressed on. "It's been over a year. People are starting to talk about why you're never at family functions. Your father's business partners, our friends at church. They're asking questions." And there it was, the real reason for her visit. "So this isn't about healing our relationship," I said flatly. "It's about appearances, what people might think." She had the decency to look embarrassed. "That's not the only reason. We miss you, Hope. Despite everything." "Despite everything," I repeated. "You mean despite the fact that you chose Amanda over me? Despite the fact that you welcomed the man who betrayed me into your home? Despite never once acknowledging how deeply you hurt me?" "I'm acknowledging it now," she said, a hint of desperation in her voice. "I'm sorry, Hope. We handled it badly. But can't we move forward, for the sake of the baby, your niece or nephew?" I leaned back in my chair, studying the woman who had given birth to me, raised me, then discarded me when I became inconvenient. Let me be very clear. I will not attend that wedding. I will not pretend we're one big happy family. I will not give Amanda and James my blessing. "People are going to talk," she insisted. "They'll wonder why you're not there." "Let them talk," I said. "Better yet, tell them the truth. Tell them your daughters aren't speaking because one of them slept with the other's boyfriend for months, got pregnant, and you decided that was perfectly fine." "Hope," she gasped. "We can't tell people that." "Why not? It's what happened." "It would destroy Amanda's reputation." I laughed without humor. "Heaven forbid Amanda face consequences for her actions." My mother stood smoothing her skirt with shaking hands. "I thought time might have softened your heart. I see I was wrong." "My heart has healed," I corrected her. "But that doesn't mean I'm willing to be hurt again." She left the invitation on my desk. I dropped it into the trash can the moment the door closed behind her. That evening, I received a call from my cousin Caitlin, my father's sister's daughter. We had been close growing up, but had drifted after the family fracture. "I heard Aunt Susan visited you today," she said without preamble. "About the wedding." I sighed. News travels fast. "Look, Hope, there's something you should know. Amanda's been telling everyone you had some kind of breakdown, that you're unstable and made up stories about her and James. The revelation shouldn't have hurt after everything else, but it did." "She's saying I imagined their affair." "Something like that," Caitlin confirmed. "That you couldn't handle James breaking up with you, so you invented reasons. Most people don't believe it, but some do, especially since you've been completely absent." Anger, hot and clarifying, surged through me, not just at Amanda for her lies, but at myself for withdrawing so completely that such a narrative could take root. "There's a family dinner next Sunday," Caitlin continued. "Before the wedding. Most of the extended family will be there. You should come, Hope. Set the record straight." The thought of facing them all, judging eyes, whispered comments, made my stomach clench. But the alternative, allowing Amanda to rewrite history to cast me as the villain in her story, was worse. "I'll be there," I said finally. The week passed in a blur of anxiety and preparation. I chose my outfit carefully, a blue dress that highlighted my eyes, professional but stylish, projecting confidence I didn't entirely feel. I rehearsed what I might say, how I would handle seeing James and Amanda together. My support group provided a sounding board offering advice and encouragement. "Remember why you're going," Teresa reminded me. "Not to rejoin the family, but to reclaim your truth." Sunday arrived with perfect spring weather, sunshine, and mild temperatures mocking my inner turmoil. I parked down the street from my aunt and uncle's large suburban home, gathering courage before walking to the door. Conversation paused when I entered the backyard where tables had been set up. About 30 family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents' friends, turned to stare. My mother dropped a serving spoon with a clatter. My father stood frozen by the grill. Hope, my Aunt Martha exclaimed, breaking the silence. What a wonderful surprise! She embraced me warmly, always the peacemaker. Others followed, offering careful greetings, gauging my emotional state, uncertain of the family dynamics. I smiled and made small talk, accepting a plate of food I had no appetite for. Amanda and James arrived 30 minutes later, her baby bump prominent under a floral maternity dress. The shock on their faces when they saw me was almost worth the anxiety of coming. James looked away immediately. Amanda recovered quickly, plastering on a smile and moving to greet relatives, pointedly avoiding my section of the yard. I watched her work the crowd, accepting congratulations and cooing comments about her pregnancy, playing the radiant mother-to-be. Her hand rested protectively on her stomach as she laughed with our grandmother. James hovered awkwardly at her side, a prop in her performance. You okay? Caitlin asked quietly, appearing at my elbow. Getting there, I replied. The afternoon progressed with excruciating slowness. I fielded polite questions about my job, my apartment, carefully avoiding the elephant in the garden, why I hadn't been at any family functions for over a year. My parents maintained distance, occasionally casting nervous glances my way. I held my ground, speaking to everyone else but them. The breaking point came during dessert when Amanda raised her glass of sparkling cider. James and I want to thank everyone for supporting us through this unexpected blessing, she announced, gesturing to her belly. We've had a difficult road with some family complications, but your love has carried us through. Her gaze found mine briefly, a flash of something like triumph in her eyes. Then came the final straw, her voice dropping to a confiding tone. Some of you know that my sister has been going through a hard time. Mental health struggles are nothing to be ashamed of. We hope she finds the help she needs. The murmurs and sympathetic looks directed my way ignited something primal within me. Before I fully realized what I was doing, I stood my chair, scraping loudly against the patio stones. Since my sister has opened this door, I said clearly, let me tell you exactly what kind of family complications and mental health struggles we're talking about. A hush fell over the gathering. My father stood. Hope this isn't the time. When is the time, Dad? When Amanda has successfully convinced everyone I'm crazy. When James is so firmly established as her husband that everyone forgets he was my boyfriend first. Amanda's face drained of color. James looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him. For those who don't know, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. 18 months ago, I caught James and Amanda having an affair that had been going on behind my back for months. When she conveniently discovered she was pregnant, my parents decided to support their relationship, even though James and I had been together for 4 years. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. My grandmother's hand flew to her mouth. My uncle's eyes narrowed at James. I didn't have a breakdown, I stated firmly. I didn't imagine anything. I walked into my parents' house and found my boyfriend and my sister together. When I asked my family to support me, they chose her. So I chose to remove myself from a toxic situation. Amanda's face contorted with anger. You're ruining my special time, she shouted. This is about my wedding, my baby. No, Amanda, this is about truth, something you've clearly forgotten. James stood, then his face ashen. She's right, he said quietly. All eyes turned to him. Everything Hope said is true. Amanda and I betrayed her. There's no excuse for what we did. Amanda stared at him in shock. James, what are you doing? I'm tired of the lies, he said, not meeting her eyes. I'm tired of pretending we didn't hurt someone who deserved better. Tears streamed down Amanda's face, but they weren't the calculated tears I'd seen before. You promised we'd never tell, she hissed. You promised? I promised a lot of things to a lot of people, he replied wearily. None of which I kept. The revelation hung in the air like smoke. My Aunt Martha moved to comfort my sobbing grandmother. My father stared into his beer. My mother looked smaller than ever. There was never a pregnancy, was there? I asked, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. Amanda's hands protectively curved around her belly. Of course there is. Look at me. Not now, I clarified. At the beginning. When you first told everyone you were pregnant, that was a lie to keep James, wasn't it? The silence that followed was answer enough. James looked away, confirmation in his avoidance. You lied about a baby to steal my boyfriend. I said, the full weight of their deception finally clear. And when that worked, you actually got pregnant to seal the deal. It wasn't like that, Amanda whispered, but her protest lacked conviction. I turned to my extended family, who watched the drama unfold with expressions ranging from shock to pity to disgust. Now you know the truth. Judge me if you want for staying away. Judge them for what they did. With that, I walked out head high despite the chaos erupting behind me. I heard James call my name, my father's raised voice, Amanda's continuing sobs. None of it mattered anymore. I had reclaimed my narrative. I had spoken my truth. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my own terms. The aftermath of the family gathering rippled outward like a stone dropped in still water. My phone exploded with messages from relatives, some apologizing for believing Amanda's version of events, others expressing shock at the deception, a few criticizing me for causing a scene at a family celebration. I read them all, but responded to few. You did the right thing, my cousin Caitlin assured me over coffee the following weekend. People needed to know the truth. I didn't do it to punish Amanda, I explained, surprising myself with the realization. I did it because I couldn't stand being erased from my own story. The wedding was postponed indefinitely, according to the family grapevine. James had moved out of my parents' house and taken an apartment across town. Amanda remained with my parents, still pregnant, still planning to keep the baby, but now facing the prospect of single motherhood. I felt no satisfaction in their relationship's collapse, only a quiet sense of justice that the foundation of lies they'd built together had proven unsustainable. My focus remained on rebuilding my own life. The confrontation had unexpectedly freed something in me, releasing the last tendrils of shame and self-doubt that had lingered despite my progress. I threw myself into work, earning another promotion 6 months later. My photography evolved from hobby to semi-professional pursuit, with several pieces selected for a local gallery exhibition. I made peace with the idea that my family as I had known it was gone. Some relatives maintained contact. Caitlin, my grandmother, a few cousins who sent birthday cards and occasional texts. My parents remained distant, though my father made sporadic efforts, calling on holidays with awkward conversation that never acknowledged the elephant in the room. Your mother sends her love, he would say at the end of each call. Tell her I received it. I would reply, unwilling to reciprocate words I didn't feel. Life settled into new patterns. Weekends with friends, evenings with Leo vacations. I planned myself without consulting anyone else's preferences. I dated a few men cautiously, never allowing myself to become too vulnerable. The betrayal had left scars I couldn't ignore, trust issues that flared at the first sign of secretive behavior or unexplained absences. Then Michael entered my life 2 years after everything fell apart. We met in the most mundane way, both reaching for the same book at a local bookstore. Michael Davis, tall with kind brown eyes and a quiet confidence that didn't demand attention. He'd been my lab partner in AP chemistry during senior year of high school, now a structural engineer with his own firm. Hope Williams, he said with genuine surprise. I heard you left Minneapolis. Just my family, I clarified. Not the city. He nodded, requiring no further explanation. We started with coffee that afternoon, which stretched into dinner when neither of us wanted the conversation to end. Michael was divorced, no children, with his own complicated history of rebuilding after loss. He asked about my family once, accepting my vague answer without pressing. Everyone has stories they don't tell on first dates, he said simply. Is this a date? I asked. I hope so, he replied. Otherwise, I've been embarrassingly overdressed and oversharing for a casual coffee. His honesty made me laugh, the first genuine laughter I'd felt in too long. We moved slowly, deliberately, both carrying baggage that made us cautious. Coffee dates became dinner dates, became weekend hikes. I met his parents, charmed by their easy affection and respect for boundaries. He met my friends, fitting seamlessly into the chosen family I'd constructed. 3 months into our relationship, I finally told him everything: the betrayal, the estrangement, the confrontation. We sat on my couch until 3 in the morning, Leo purring between us as I unlocked the vault of pain I'd kept carefully sealed. I understand if this is too much drama, I concluded, exhausted but lighter for having shared. Michael took my hand, his expression serious. Hope everyone has a past. What matters is how you've handled it, with grace and strength from what I can see. I don't know about grace, I admitted. I've been angry for a long time. You had every right to be, he said simply. That night marked a turning point, not just in our relationship, but in my healing. Sharing my story without shame, being accepted without judgment, created space for a new kind of vulnerability. I wasn't naive enough to believe love solved everything, but Michael's steady presence made the future seem less daunting. Meanwhile, my career continued its upward trajectory. When a major client requested someone to lead their West Coast expansion, I volunteered immediately. It would mean relocating to Seattle, my boss warned. I know, I replied. I'm ready for a change. The decision crystallized quickly after that. Seattle offered a fresh start, professional advancement, and distance from the ghosts of Minneapolis. When I told Michael about the opportunity, I expected disappointment, or at least complication. Seattle is beautiful, he said instead. I've always wanted to live near the ocean. You'd consider moving? I asked, surprised. My firm has been looking to expand, he explained, and I've discovered something important in the past year. Home isn't a place. It's a person. 6 months later, we packed our lives into moving containers. Michael's modern furniture, my books and photography equipment, Leo in his travel carrier complaining vociferously about the upheaval. The Seattle apartment we rented sight unseen turned out to have expansive windows overlooking Elliott Bay mountain views on clear days and enough space for both his home office and my photography studio. Life in Seattle bloomed with possibilities. My role at work challenged and energized me. Michael's business expanded successfully. We built a circle of friends through work, neighbors, and community activities. For the first time in years, I felt completely at home, not just in our apartment, but in my life. The irony wasn't lost on me that I had to lose my birth family to find what family truly meant: support without conditions, love without manipulation, trust reinforced daily through actions, rather than assumed through blood ties. Occasionally, thoughts of Minneapolis surfaced, wondering about Amanda's baby, my parents' lives continuing without me, the family events I no longer attended. These thoughts came less frequently as months passed, the pain dulling to a distant ache rather than an acute wound. Then came the call that would bring everything full circle, forcing me to confront what I thought I had left behind permanently. On an ordinary Tuesday evening, as Michael and I prepared dinner, my phone rang with Caitlin's name on the screen. "Hope," she said without greeting, her voice thick with emotion. "It's your dad. He had a heart attack this morning. He's gone." The wooden spoon I'd been holding clattered to the floor. Michael looked up in alarm as the color drained from my face. "What happened?" I managed to ask, sinking into a kitchen chair. "It was sudden. At his office. The paramedics couldn't revive him," Caitlin explained. "I thought you should know right away." "Thank you," I whispered, mind racing. "Did my mother call you? Ask you to tell me?" A pause. "No. Your mother hasn't called anyone yet. My mom found out from your father's business partner. I don't think they were planning to tell you, Hope." The revelation shouldn't have hurt after 3 years of estrangement, but it did. A fresh wound over the scar tissue I'd carefully cultivated. My father was gone, and they hadn't even considered me worth notifying. "When is the funeral?" I asked, voice steadier than I felt. "Friday at 2, Lakewood Cemetery Chapel." "I'll be there," I said, already calculating flights and time off work. After hanging up, I turned to find Michael watching me with concern. "My father died." I said the words strange in my mouth. "Heart attack." He didn't offer platitudes, just opened his arms. I stepped into them, letting the complicated grief wash over me. Sorrow for the father I had loved, anger at the man who had chosen my sister over me, regret for the reconciliation that never happened. "I need to go back to Minneapolis," I said against his shoulder. "We'll go together," he replied, the simplicity of his support bringing fresh tears. As we booked flights that night, I couldn't have anticipated the final confrontation awaiting me, or how my father's death would force a reckoning that would either heal the remaining wounds or sever the last threads connecting me to the family I once thought unbreakable. Minneapolis in autumn looked exactly as I remembered. crimson and gold trees lining familiar streets, crisp air carrying the scent of fallen leaves. Michael drove our rental car from the airport, giving me space to process the surreal experience of returning to the city I'd left behind. Nothing had changed yet. Everything was different. We checked into a hotel downtown rather than staying with relatives. I needed neutral territory, a sanctuary to retreat to after what promised to be an emotionally draining day. The funeral wasn't until tomorrow, but I had unfinished business today. "Are you sure about this?" Michael asked as we approached the funeral home that afternoon. "We could wait until tomorrow." "I need to say goodbye my way," I explained. "Not surrounded by people who've chosen sides." The funeral director looked startled when I gave my name. "Ms. Williams, we weren't expecting family until tomorrow." "I'm the daughter," I said simply. "I'd like to see my father." He hesitated. "Your mother and sister were here earlier making arrangements. They didn't mention you would be coming." "I'm sure they didn't," I replied, my voice even. "But I have the right to say goodbye to my father." Something in my expression must have convinced him. He led us to a private viewing room where my father lay in an open casket surrounded by flower arrangements. Michael squeezed my hand before stepping back, giving me privacy for this moment. Robert Williams looked smaller somehow, his face peaceful in a way it rarely had been in life. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly combed, his hands folded over his favorite navy suit. The sight hit me harder than expected, not just grief for what was lost, but for what might have been. "Hi, Dad," I said softly, approaching the casket. "It's been a while." I stood in silence, memories flooding back. Dad teaching me to ride a bike, cheering at my college graduation, walking me through my first tax return. The good years before everything fractured. "I wish things had been different," I continued, my voice barely audible. "I wish you had chosen differently. But I want you to know I'm okay. I built a good life. I found someone who loves me the way I deserve to be loved. I hope you found peace before the end." I placed my hand briefly over his cold one, this final touch, the only physical contact we'd had in years. "Goodbye, Dad." As I turned to leave, the door opened. My mother stood there, Amanda half a step behind her. They froze at the sight of me, clearly unprepared for this encounter. My mother recovered first. "Hope, we didn't know you were coming." "Clearly," I replied. "Caitlin told me about Dad, since no one else bothered to." Amanda shifted uncomfortably, a sleeping toddler on her hip. My niece or nephew, whom I'd never met. The child had dark hair like James, but Amanda's delicate features. "This is a family time," Amanda said, her voice tight. "You chose to leave this family." "No," I corrected calmly. "I was pushed out when you all chose to support your affair with my boyfriend. But he was still my father." My mother looked older than her 60 years, grief etching new lines around her eyes. "Can we not do this here? Not now?" "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I came to say goodbye to Dad. I've done that. I'll see you at the funeral tomorrow." I moved toward the door, Michael appearing at my side, a silent support. My mother's eyes widened at the sight of him, this stranger accompanying her estranged daughter. "This is Michael," I said, not elaborating further. "We're staying at the Marquette if you need to reach me." We left them standing by the casket, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. In the car, Michael took my hand. "You okay?" I nodded, surprising myself with the truth of it. "I needed to see him, to say goodbye. And tomorrow I'll attend his funeral, pay my respects, and then we'll go home to Seattle. Our home." The funeral service passed in a blur of hymns and eulogies. I sat in the back row with Michael, separate from the family section at the front, where my mother Amanda and her child sat surrounded by relatives. A few cousins nodded acknowledgement when they saw me. My grandmother made her way back during a quiet moment, embracing me with frail arms, and whispered, "I've missed you so much," before being guided back to her seat by an uncle. I didn't speak during the service, didn't approach the family receiving line afterward. My presence was my tribute. Nothing more was required. The real confrontation came 3 days later at the reading of the will. My mother's attorney, Mr. Patterson, had contacted me directly requesting my presence at his office for matters pertaining to your father's estate. I'd expected nothing from my father's will had made peace with that likelihood. The conference room held a small gathering. My mother, Amanda, the attorney, and now Michael and me, Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses, shuffling papers with practiced efficiency. Thank you all for coming. I'll get straight to the reading of Robert Williams's last will and testament. What followed was unexpected to everyone. My father had revised his will 6 months earlier, something he had told no one. The family home and half his investment portfolio went to my mother as expected. Then came the surprises. To my daughter, Hope Williams, I leave my ownership stake in Williams Construction, the lake house property in Minnetonka, and the remaining investment accounts totaling approximately $1.2 million. The room fell silent. My mother's face registered shock, then outrage. Amanda's mouth opened and closed without sound. Additionally, the attorney continued, a trust has been established for my grandchild Sophia to be administered by Hope Williams until Sophia reaches the age of 25. This can't be right, my mother finally sputtered. Robert would never. Hope hasn't been part of this family for years. Mr. Patterson removed his glasses. Mrs. Williams, I prepared this will myself at your husband's explicit instruction. He was of sound mind and quite clear about his wishes. I sat in stunned silence trying to process this unexpected development. My father, who had chosen Amanda in life, had chosen me in death. Why? What had changed? There must be a previous will, Amanda insisted, from before Hope abandoned the family. The previous will was revoked when this one was executed, the attorney explained patiently. This is the only valid document. She doesn't deserve any of it, my mother said, voice rising. She turned her back on this family when we needed her most. I found my voice at last. When you needed me most. When exactly was that, Mom? When you were comforting Amanda after she betrayed me. When you were planning her wedding to my ex-boyfriend. Please tell me when you needed me. You could have forgiven, she insisted. Family forgives. Forgiveness requires acknowledgement, I replied quietly. Not one of you ever truly admitted what you did, how deeply you hurt me. You expected me to smile and accept betrayal because of blood ties. Amanda stood abruptly. You can't do this to us. Dad's company was supposed to support Mom in retirement. The lake house has been in the family for generations. You have to sign it over to us. I don't have to do anything, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. Dad made his choice, just like you all made yours 3 years ago. You abandoned him when he needed his daughter. My mother accused, tears streaming down her face. You broke his heart. Something snapped inside me then, the last thread of restraint. I broke his heart. He chose my sister and her affair over me. He watched me walk away and did nothing to stop me. For 3 years, he made the same choice every single day. That's not true, my mother whispered. He tried to call you, many times, to apologize, to acknowledge what you all did know, to pretend nothing happened, to sweep it all under the rug because acknowledging it would mean admitting you all failed me. The room fell silent again. Michael placed a steadying hand on my back. Maybe, I continued more gently. In the end, Dad realized his mistake. Maybe this was his way of trying to make it right. By punishing us, Amanda demanded, taking away security from Mom and my daughter. Is that what you think this is, punishment? I shook my head. I never wanted any of this. I only wanted my family to choose me for once, to stand by me when I was hurt. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue this discussion another time. The legalities are clear, but the emotions are understandably high. I stood gathering my coat. That won't be necessary. I'll have my attorney contact you about transferring the assets. Hope, please, my mother pleaded. Don't do this. Don't take your father's legacy away from us. I studied her face, the woman who had taught me about family, about loyalty, about love, then betrayed those very principles when they became inconvenient. I'm not taking anything away, I said finally. Dad gave me his legacy for a reason. I need time to understand why. In the weeks that followed back in Seattle, I pondered my father's unexpected decision. Why leave me so much when he had chosen Amanda in life? Had he regretted his choice? Had something changed his perspective? I would never know for certain. What I did know was that I didn't want wealth born of family trauma. After careful consideration and discussion with Michael, I made my decision. The lake house I kept, the one place that held purely happy memories. But the company shares I sold to my father's business partner, using half the proceeds to establish a substantial trust for my niece Sophia, separate from the one my father had created. The remaining money went to fund a scholarship in my father's name at the technical college where he had studied decades ago. "You're more generous than they deserve," Michael observed as I finalized the arrangements. "It's not about what they deserve," I explained. "It's about who I choose to be. I don't want to carry this weight anymore." My mother called when she received the trust documents for Sophia. For the first time, her voice held no accusation, no manipulation, just quiet recognition. "Thank you," she said simply. "Sophia will have opportunities because of you." "She's innocent in all this," I replied. "I want her to have choices." Would you want to meet her someday?" My mother ventured cautiously. "Maybe someday?" I allowed. "Not yet." It wasn't forgiveness exactly. That would require acknowledgement and change I hadn't yet seen. But it was a crack in the wall. I'd built a possibility that hadn't existed before. 6 months later, Michael proposed on a hiking trail overlooking Puget Sound, the Seattle skyline gleaming in the distance. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, I felt the last pieces of my heart knitting back together, not erasing the scars but incorporating them into a stronger whole. "Yes," I said without hesitation, stepping into the future I had built from the wreckage of betrayal. "Family is not just blood, I've learned. It's choice. It's showing up. It's standing beside someone when doing so costs you something. It's honesty and accountability, and the courage to acknowledge harm." My first family failed me in these ways, but in that failure, I found the strength to create something truer, healthier, built on respect rather than obligation. Maybe someday there will be reconciliation with my mother and sister. Maybe not. What matters is that I no longer need it to be whole. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about excusing the inexcusable. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. It's a gift I gave myself, not them. The family I've built with Michael are friends, and the authentic connections we've cultivated. This is my true inheritance, worth more than any lake house or trust fund. In losing what I thought was essential, I found what truly matters. In the end, that may be the most valuable lesson my father unintentionally taught me. Have you ever had to choose between what others expected and what you knew was right for you? Would you have handled this family situation differently? Tell me in the comments. If my story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and finding strength through difficult circumstances. I appreciate you being here with me through this vulnerable share. Remember, sometimes the family you create is more healing than the one you were born into.